As my wife Tracy and I walked up to the checkout line at Starbucks, a young red-haired girl looked at my wife and said, "Hey, you're going to have a pumpkin spice latte, right? And for you, sir?" Tracy just smiled weakly at the teenager before he turned to me. As I expected to have a little more time to choose, I wasn't prepared, so I quickly skimmed the menu and ordered my usual choice, a salted caramel latte. I was about to take cash out of my left front pocket to pay when I saw Tracy give me a sideways look, so instead of cash, I grabbed my wallet, pulled out my debit card, and tapped it on the terminal in front of me. Tracy nodded at me with a small smile, letting me know that I had done the right thing. Tracy keeps track of the money in our house, and she always encourages me to pay via card so that we can track where our money is going. But I am a man of the old school. When it comes to 2 drinks at Starbucks, I find it easier to pay cash. We've already had several arguments about this. We walked away from the counter to wait for our drinks. 5 minutes later, the teenager brought our drinks, and we headed back to our car to continue on our way. We were halfway to some of our friends' apartments for a weekend of fun. To get this straight, we were heading to the apartment of a grad student couple we'd met 6 months earlier for a weekend of passionate sex. Tracy and I met Bobby and Matt on a grown-up weekend camping in Northern California. Tracy gave me this day off for our anniversary, and Bobby and Matt ended up in the cabin next door to ours. Guys booked weekends to meet beautiful women, and they definitely found one in my wife. Tracy and I have been married for 18 years and have 2 children. But before we started our family, we participated in open meetings and partner exchanges. Although we hadn't done anything like this in a while, Tracy made it clear that she was up for just about anything that weekend. And when she saw 2 attractive guys in the next cabin, she just had to meet them. They turned out to be wonderful guys, very polite and funny. And when Tracy asked me if we could play with them, I agreed, provided that we stuck to the old rules. Nothing intimate without the other's presence, and always respectful of each other to a friend. Both guys were quite attractive and well-built. We spent an amazing day and a half with them, during which all 3 of us had sex with Tracy several times on Saturday night and Sunday morning. Tracy spent a significant amount of time on Cloud 9 during this time. When it was time for us to leave, we decided to get together with the guys in 6 months for another fun weekend, this time at their apartment. Just like in the summer, we asked Tracy's parents to watch the kids for the weekend and set off on the 2-hour drive. After an hour of driving, I decided I needed some caffeine, so when I saw a sign for Starbucks, I pulled off the highway. Tracy said she didn't really want to stop, but I chalked it up to the fact that she probably didn't want to waste a minute thinking about the weekend ahead. But since I was driving, we stopped by. Another hour later, we reached the guy's apartment. It would have actually been a lot easier to host this weekend at our place, but after some discussion, Tracy and I decided we didn't want the neighbors to be too nosy, so we chose the guy's apartment, even though it wasn't as nice or big as ours house. Bobby had a queen bed in his room, so there were plenty of opportunities for both of us to have sex with Tracy at the same time. Since we all knew what we were going for this weekend, getting ready was quick and easy. We just needed something to wear to dinner on Friday and Saturday nights, as well as something to wear on the way there and back. The plan for the rest of the weekend was that we were going to have sex. No clothes needed, thank you. I think we were there no more than 10 minutes before Bobby and Tracy were already deep in passionate kissing on the couch, while Matt and I sat in the chairs in the room. After a few minutes, Matt apologized for his conversation with me and joined the couple on the couch. Tracy climbed onto the bed with the guys and things moved quickly. That's when I noticed it. Matt just rubbed Tracy's thigh a little, and she responded by moving exactly the way he wanted. It's something Tracy and I can do together because we've been together 18 years, but it's not what I expected people to do after about a day and a half together about 6 months ago, like they were training. No, this can't be true, I quickly told myself. The rest of the weekend was the same, except we went out to eat both nights. I never thought about it again until we saw the Starbucks sign on the way back home. Then I remembered the red-haired girl who seemed to know my wife's drink like magic, and the several times I was amazed at how in sync the guys and Tracy seemed to be during sex. Tracy was physically exhausted, as I could see, but mentally she was floating, chatting incessantly for most of the 2-hour ride. She didn't seem to notice that I was out of sorts because my thoughts were running in a million directions. I knew I had agreed to what had happened 6 months ago and then this weekend, but what appeared to be an ongoing, secret affair between Tracy and the boys was definitely not part of our agreement. It would also violate our rules of engagement, no matter the circumstances. To put it simply, one of our rules was that any entertainment always involved both of us. And if I was right, this rule had been broken several times, and done fraudulently. Damn it. Although I was obviously an overly gullible fool, it didn't take a genius to track Tracy's movements over the past few months. Shortly after we met the guys over the summer, Tracy began taking classes at a local college to see if she wanted to get a master's degree in history. 3 times she told me that she attended intensive seminars on Friday and Saturday, returning home on Sunday afternoon. And I did not even think about it because I trusted her completely. Then there was a long weekend of shopping with some work colleagues, and one weekend she attended the bachelorette party of one of her old college friends who was getting married again a few hours away. She said she thought I probably wouldn't want to go through with it and just booked myself, and at the time I thought she was great for not making me go through with it. Could all this be a ruse? Could I really be so blind, so stupid? I left work early a few days later and started going through our accounts, looking for receipts and credit card bills. Tracy was obsessed with tracking our expenses using cards instead of cash, which made it easier for me. For every weekend in question, there were checks from the boys' town, and on each of those weekends, there was at least one purchase at Starbucks, which we stopped at on our way to the guy's apartment. No wonder the redhead seemed familiar with her. I was furious and incredibly hurt. She had everything she wanted, including guys, but she had to be greedy and disrespectful. Hell, all she had to do if she wanted more sex with Matt and Bobby was just ask me, and I probably would have agreed. But apparently the love I felt for her was much deeper than the love she felt for me. She couldn't have hurt me any more if she had just asked for a divorce instead. Despite my suspicions, I knew I needed to confirm the facts. It's not in my nature to act rashly, so I knew that I would have to wait for her next weekend to get the evidence I needed for my own peace of mind. It wasn't easy to pretend that everything was fine, but I managed to do it for the next few weeks, and even managed to have sex with her a few times during that time. We live in a no-fault state, so the financial split had to be equal, but I knew that if I could prove adultery, I would get more visitation rights with my children. 3 weeks after our weekend with the boys, Tracy told me that another workshop was coming up and that she would be leaving the following Friday and Saturday and returning as usual on Sunday. I barely looked up from the newspaper I was reading when she told me, so as not to give myself away. I'm sure my growl of approval only made her more confident that she was misleading me again. On Friday, when she had to leave, I made sure that I did not deviate 1 degree from the time she cheated last time. I always left for work about an hour before she did, and then she and the kids waited for their school bus to arrive before heading to her workshop. The kids were old enough to be left alone after school until I got home around 6. I gave Tracy a quick peck on the lips as I left, but nearly ruined it when my emotions took over, and I gave each of the kids a very heartfelt hug. As soon as I walked out the door, tears rolled down my cheeks. I thought that the next time I saw my children, I would have to tell them that their mother was a traitor and destroyed our family. I truly regretted this part of the plan. I beat Tracy by about an hour as I headed to the boys' apartment. I parked in the back of the apartment complex parking lot, knowing that Tracy wouldn't be looking for me anyway. I set an alarm on my cell phone to wake me up in an hour, and took a nap in the car. It was actually a bad dream because I couldn't turn off my brain, and when the alarm went off, I immediately jumped up and hit my head on the roof of the car. While I was rubbing my head, Tracy's car pulled into the parking lot and parked in about the same spot we parked last time. With her bag under her arm, I watched as she walked towards the boys' door and knocked. Bobby answered the door wearing what looked like long, silky basketball shorts with no shirt, leaned in and gave Tracy a long, passionate kiss right at the door. He took her bag and held the door while she went inside. I looked around the lot and found both boys' cars, so I knew Matt was in the apartment too. I didn't think he'd want to miss a minute of the fun. Part of me was dying inside as I waited for 30 minutes. I wanted them to start so I could see with my own eyes what my heart already knew was true. And knowing how happy Tracy would be, I knew they wouldn't waste any time getting started. At 30 minutes, I walked up to the door, easily and very quietly picked the lock, and went inside. I could easily hear the three of them doing it in Bobby's bedroom, where I quietly headed. Tracy shouted the usual phrases, but one of them threw me off balance. She said, "Make Jeff a happy cuckold." It was at this moment that I lost my composure and broke down. They hadn't seen me yet, so I caught all three of them by surprise when I rushed to the bed, punched Bobby square in the face, then turned my attention to Matt. I don't think Tracy realized at that moment that I was the one attacking the boys, and she just started screaming and jumping out of bed. I also hit her in the face when she passed me. For the first time in my life, I hit a woman. "Jeff, stop, stop, Jeff, 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 stop, stop, stop." I heard Tracy scream, and like an obedient puppy, I just stopped. They all looked dumbfounded. "What the hell is going on, Jeff?" Bobby blurted out. "What the hell do you three think is going on?" I shouted back. "Hey, man, I thought we were okay," Bobby replied. "According to what?" I shouted back. Almost simultaneously, three men's heads turned towards Tracy. She looked scared to death, her eyes moving from one face to another. "Are you trying to tell me what the hell is going on?" I screamed at my wife. Tracy glanced at both guys before turning fully to me. We locked eyes for a split second, and then she began studying the worn carpet when she spoke. "I told them you were fine with it all. It wasn't their fault," Tracy finally muttered. "What are you doing? What about the damn rules, cheater?" "No, that's not okay with me." "Listen, Jeff, man, we're really sorry," Matt interjected. "When Tracy started coming here, she said you couldn't leave, but that you were okay with the three of us having fun." "True," Bobby confirmed, nodding his head vigorously and raising both hands in surrender. Guys, I said between breaths. Suddenly, I felt very tired and tired. "I'm really sorry for what happened here. I really liked you two, but no. I didn't know anything about any of this, and I don't agree with any of it. She lied to you. Our pranks were always meant to happen together or not happening at all. Those were the rules between Tracy and I, although one of us doesn't seem to feel bound by them anymore." I made a face at Tracy. I watched her from the corner of my eye while I was talking to the guys and saw her physically flinch when I called her a liar. "You hit me," Tracy sobbed pitifully. At that moment, I thought she was trying to play on my feelings rather than admit her infidelity. I wasn't going to put up with this. "I'll hit you again if you don't start talking now. What the hell did you think you were doing? Is this a thank you for letting you have fun? You didn't care about me. You cheated on me. You're an ungrateful bitch. Just tell me why. That's all I want to know. 18 years down the drain." "I'm sorry, Jeff. I really am. I wanted everything, and I thought I could have it all," she finally responded. "Sex with two of them was out of this world, and since you were okay with them, I thought... And I was fine with them. I thought the four of us had a wonderful time together, so I agreed we could do it again. I just never thought you'd leave me behind." I shook my head sadly. It's not every day that your life turns to nothing before your eyes. "Again, guys, I'm really sorry for how things turned out, but at least now I don't blame you too. I'm going to leave now." As I turned to leave, Tracy slowly rose from the floor and walked towards me. When she came within arm's length, I placed both hands on her shoulders and gently pushed her back. "You can stay as long as you want. I won't be at home when you return. The children will be with your parents. I won't tell anyone anything yet, but in the coming days I will tell the children that you cheated on me and we are getting a divorce." Tracy sucked in her breath when I said that. "No, Jeff, don't do this. We can fix this. She began to cry. I screwed up. I know it. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. Tracy, this is not a one-time thing. You've been here 6 times, which means you've deceived or misled me 6 times, not counting cheating on me 6 times. I don't know what I did to deserve such disrespect, but it's a stain that will never go away. And I'll always watch you like a hawk, just waiting for the next time you think you can move on from cheating. I don't want to live like this. The guys sat there, not making a sound during this exchange, which was probably the best they could do under the circumstances. They were deceived, just like me. I was sure that they were not going to cover Tracy's ass in front of me. 2 hours later, I entered my house, but it was like entering someone else's house. He no longer seemed hospitable or friendly. I headed straight to the liquor cabinet, grabbed a Cabo Wabo silver, threw a few ice cubes into a tall glass, and filled it to the brim with tequila. It had been a damn long day, and it was only the middle of the day. You can imagine how absolutely shocked I was when Tracy walked through the door about an hour after me. I honestly thought she would stay the whole weekend and have sex with guys, since I made it clear that she wasn't welcome at home. But here she was, bruised on her cheek and all, heading towards my family room. I just stared at her from my rocking chair, waiting to see if she would start yelling at me or be coy. Jeff, it was just sex with a couple of friends we've both been with before, she said as she sat down on the couch. Yes, I made a big error in judgment when I went behind your back, but haven't you ever made a big error in judgment? Here it is. A move with a major error in judgment. I hope I wasn't smiling when she said that. Yes, Tracy, I made some big errors in judgment, especially the one when I said we could go out with guys. Apparently, you took that as permission to go out with them as much as you want and forget about any respect for me. To your husband of 18 years. Looks like it's written on my forehead. I'm a fool. Cheat on me. No, I'm not kicking you to the curb, Jeff, she replied. I love you with all my heart. You know that the thing with guys was just about sex. I got carried away. It was the best sex of my life, and I guess I just wanted more, but it definitely wasn't about love. And your decision to cheat on me with 2 guys behind my back wasn't about love either. My glass was empty, so I got up, went to the kitchen and filled it to the brim with ice and tequila. Yes, I'm smart enough to know that drinking alcohol won't solve my problem. But I didn't have any plans until Monday, when I found a lawyer and started the divorce process. Tracy just stood behind me in the kitchen, quietly sobbing. I resisted the urge to turn around and hug her and make her pain go away, as I had done so many times in the past. You should probably pack a few things for yourself and go stay with your parents for a couple of days. I sure as hell don't want you here. I'll pack my things and find a place to stay, and you and the girls can come back on Monday. I will. I'll call you when I'm ready to come and talk to the girls face-to-face next week. I'll text them tomorrow when I'm sober. Now go. That was the last time I spoke to Tracy alone as husband and wife. After that, we usually met in the presence of lawyers or family. I didn't feel like she had anything new or useful to tell me, so I never agreed to meet her in person. The children took the news quite calmly, considering the circumstances. Maria had only 1 year left before she went to college, and Haley would be heading there in 4 years. We agreed that Tracy would live in the house with the girls until they both graduated from college, after which we would sell the house and split the profits. We split almost all financial matters equally, but with me still being responsible for half the mortgage and my own apartment. Things were tight. Luckily, I still remembered how to live the frugal bachelor lifestyle, even if I didn't quite remember the bachelor games. I saw the kids often enough that our relationship remained strong until they both left for college. Then we lost touch a little due to school and summer jobs. I think they both felt a little sorry for me, being so isolated from my old life. They didn't talk about Tracy too much when we were dating because they knew I didn't want to waste our limited time together bringing up painful memories. I tried to make sure we spent our time together creating new memories. I learned from them and my former fathers-in-law and mother-in-law that Tracy continued to see the guys about once a month for the next couple of years. Tracy always told the girls it was a business trip, but they weren't stupid kids and figured it out easily. I know that they also resented her for lying, although we never directly talked about it. Tracy and I only saw each other at kids-related events, like graduations. I still met her parents for lunch sometimes. They too avoided talking to me about Tracy, although in their case, I think it was more out of shame than anything else. About a month after the girls left for college, about 5 years later, a familiar face showed up at my gym one Friday night. When Bobby saw me, he immediately walked towards me and we shook hands like old friends. He seemed to think that since he and Matt weren't to blame for Tracy's cheating, everything was fine between him and me. And he was right. I never blamed the guys because Tracy lied to them about my permission. And since they continued to have sex with Tracy after I left her, I decided that it no longer had anything to do with me. And I couldn't blame them for continuing to use Tracy's body whenever they could. I would probably do the same thing to a woman like Tracy if I were them. Bobby and I went to a bar a few minutes' drive from the gym after we finished lifting weights and reconnected. He told me that Matt stopped having sex with Tracy a few months ago when he and his girlfriend got engaged and decided to be faithful to each other, and Bobby moved out of their apartment a week ago so Matt and his fiancée could take it over. "So where do you live now?" I asked, naively. I've been a little slow on this one. Remember, I was isolated. Bobby looked at me like I was a fool until he realized that I didn't know. I moved in with Tracy last week at your old house. Apparently no one told you." "I'm sorry if it's awkward, man," he said, shaking his head. "Don't worry about anything. Awkwardness is my life," I replied. "Tracy and I don't talk, and everyone else doesn't talk to me about her. It works." "Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that you two aren't still together," he said. "I thought you were very close and would eventually get over it and get back together." "We were very close, but it seems like 18 wonderful years didn't mean as much to her as it did you guys." Bobby lowered his eyes in guilt. "Ah, damn. Come on, kid, raise your head. You two didn't do this on purpose, and it's been water under the bridge for over 4 years. You still have my number. Call me every now and then when the old lady lets you leave the house." He laughed at this and perked up. We shook hands, got up from our chairs, and headed to our homes. Bobby called. Once. We went to a baseball game and just talked about life in general. I thought he liked it, but he never called again after that. Maybe Tracy couldn't accept the fact that I didn't hold a grudge against the guy as much as I did against her. Haley moved in with me for the summer, almost immediately after college ended. She said it was too strange for her to live at home with Tracy and Bobby, although she thought he was a nice enough guy. Tracy called shortly after Haley moved in and told me what she thought, saying that I was undermining her authority in front of our child. I'm not sure she believed me when I said I had nothing to do with it. In fact, my apartment was too small for both of us for a long time. But we will manage somehow. The apartment was really too small for that, but I didn't care, and I told Haley that she could live with me as long as she wanted. I didn't give a damn what Tracy thought. Maria graduated from Iowa State University in May, and the entire extended family made the trip for the occasion. She had already started her first professional job, so instead of going to Tracy's home, she moved her belongings to Madison, Wisconsin, to become a staff accountant for the Geldwen Window Company. This meant that Tracy and Bobby were now officially childless, so to speak. This seemed to be the beginning of the end of Tracy's relationship with Bobby, as I learned about 6 months later from Bobby himself. I was working in my office one fine average afternoon when the secretary called and said I had a visitor. When I walked up to the hall, Bobby was standing there, and he looked terrible. He had gained a few pounds and, more importantly, looked like he hadn't slept in about a week. He looked much older than his 30 years. "Can we talk somewhere, dude?" he told me, as I extended my hand in greeting. I told him we could go to the Dunkin' Donuts down the street and told Carol, our receptionist, to let our boss know that I was on break and would be back soon. I walked Bobby to my car and made the 2-minute drive to Dunkin'. We ordered drinks and brownies and sat at a table in the back. I looked into Bobby's tired eyes. "What's happened?" "You won't believe how much she misses you, man," Bobby began, without mentioning Tracy by name. "He's always talking about Jeff. About Jeff. I gotta tell you, it's hard to be in your shoes." And even the sex is different. It's still good, but there seems to be no emotion on her part. She's a complex woman, and I'm not for complex ones. She wants you, not me. Sorry, Bobby, but she gave up on me to have sex with you and Matt. This is real life, buddy. She can't have it both ways. Well, I just thought I'd give it a try, brother. You know, I respect her a lot, but I don't love her. And that's the love she's missing. But it won't come from me, so I'm moving back up north, man. She still doesn't know, so I would appreciate it if you didn't say anything. I'll tell her myself. I just won't leave her. Are you sure you don't want to give her another chance? He said, tapping his heart. Bobby, love doesn't disappear just because you stop loving someone, I replied. I guess I'll always love Tracy, but no, I'm not in love with her anymore. There's a difference. Okay, Jeff, I got it. I guess I'll be leaving in a few days. Thanks, I guess, for everything. Then again, I never wanted any of this to happen. I know, Bobby. Take care of yourself. Find yourself a woman like Matt did and settle down. He smiled at me. We got up from the table, shook hands, and he left. Dad, I'm marrying Jason. He proposed to me last night, Maria said over the phone, her voice full of emotion. Are you ready to give me up? Although I was extremely happy that Jason proposed to Maria because I really liked the guy and thought they were good for each other, on some level I wasn't quite ready to give my eldest daughter to another man. This was my father's protective side coming out. Although Tracy and I had a wonderful 18 years together, it didn't end well, and part of me was afraid that my daughter would ever experience that kind of pain. But I couldn't tell her that, especially on this day, so I put on my happiest dad voice and answered loudly, yes. I had always planned to pay for the wedding and had even set up a fund to do so, but I assumed that Maria would turn to Tracy for help with the organization, so I was surprised when she asked me to help her with the planning. I knew they had a little fight over the divorce, but I thought they were over it. What about Mom? Won't it hurt her? I asked. Perhaps, but I'm not doing it to hurt her, she replied. I really want to do this with you and me together, like we always did at science fairs every year in elementary school. Remember? We were a great team, and I think we have another big project ahead. What are you on? Will you say that? In fact, for a moment I couldn't say anything because I was so overcome with emotion. Dad, are you still here? Hell yes, I'm here. And hell yes, I'll help you with this. I almost shouted into the phone. We recruited Haley to help organize it because she was spending the summer with me before her senior year of college, and it turned out to be a pretty good event, if I may say so myself. You do a lot of weird things for your kids as a parent, and one of the weirdest things I did was sign up for dance classes before my wedding. I came up with the idea of giving my daughter the best father-daughter dance ever, and I wanted both of my daughters to see that their dad could still have fun and know how to have fun. I kept it a secret from both girls, only telling Haley that she would be on her own for dinner on Tuesday night because it was my bowling night. I joined the league. She didn't ask me, and the fact that I came home hot and sweaty convinced her that I was bowling. In fact, I came home hot and sweaty because dancing was killing me. I wasn't a child at 48, and I didn't realize how physically demanding dance could be. I signed up for 2 classes, ballroom dancing and street dancing. I wanted to learn all the classical dances like you see on Dancing with the Stars, but I also wanted to shock my kids by learning to dance like them. The instructors at the dance studio assured me that I wouldn't be the only unconnected person in class. In fact, both of the young female instructors who signed me up said that a single man my age wanting to learn to dance was a blessing to them, because there were at least 6 unrelated women ranging in age from 25 to 60 in both classes. Who knows? Maybe you'll get lucky, joked the young blonde instructor, who was about 30 years old. I was actually very popular in class because the unpaired women had to take turns leading and following each other because there weren't enough unpaired men for everyone. So I danced with about 6 different women in each class. Considering that my personal life had been pretty much in the dust since my divorce, I have to admit that it was a nice change of scenery to be so close to a live woman, even though I had promised both the instructors and myself that I wouldn't be an intrusive jerk. I found that ballroom dancing is actually more difficult than street dancing because of the whole structure. Moving to the beat and counting while leading a woman was a difficult task. Street dancing was more personal, almost like a one-on-one game of basketball. Creativity and spontaneity were encouraged once I realized what I was doing in the first place. When I was married, I sometimes wondered where single people went to meet other single people other than at a bar. I was told by friends that church was definitely not the place for it, but none of my friends ever talked about dance lessons. After the wedding, I had to tell my eldest that she helped my social life get back on track. 4 women who had been to both dance classes with me, whom I got on well with, asked me to join them at a club in town for drinks and dancing. They regularly went there on Fridays to distress and have fun, and maybe meet someone too. By then, they all knew my history and knew that while I enjoyed their company, I had no intention of trying to start a relationship with them. We felt safe with each other, and I know they enjoyed a little male company on those evenings. We all became pretty good friends, and over time I felt free to ask them questions about the female psyche. Trust me, it was a great lesson, especially since there were 4 of them, each with their own experiences. Being the only man in the group, I mostly danced only with my friends. After all, 4 partners was more than enough. They danced with me and with each other, and with other men when asked politely. Other women saw us together and either thought I had some kind of harem thing going on or I was gay, so I wasn't asked to dance often. However, every now and then some brave soul would approach me, and I would usually grant their request. And from time to time, a phone number slipped into my hand. Usually, one of my 4 friends would notice the gesture, and I would get ridiculed when I returned to our table. "Hey, Romeo, we're not here to be your wings," said Mavis, one of my 4, the first time a woman handed me her number. It's probably a good thing the club was dimly lit because I know I turned 3 shades of red. When the wedding day arrived, I was practically a different person compared to the single man I had become after my divorce. Chatting with my female friends from dance class was educational, to say the least, and my ability to dance gave me confidence to the point where I felt quite confident. With my lady friends as my fashion advisors, I bought a snazzy new suit for the wedding that I thought looked pretty sharp. The wedding went off with a bang, if I may say so. My daughter looked beautiful as I walked her down the aisle. Even Tracy's presence at the event couldn't dampen my mood. I discussed the father-daughter dance with the group, but did not mention it to Maria. We started with tango, then moved to waltz after about 90 seconds, and then went to modern after another 90 seconds. I gave her some old-school advice, but she was hanging on and breathing heavily as I calmly advanced in front of everyone. Then, when the music changed to modern rhythms, I let her go and accompanied her step by step in street dancing. The look on her face, on the faces of everyone present, was priceless. My daughter almost smothered me with her hug when the dance finally ended. Honestly, I walked off the dance floor knowing that Jason and his mother wouldn't even have a chance to compare to ours. Dance. I accepted congratulations as if I had just won the Indy 500 while the mother-son dance was going on. Before I knew it, Tracy was standing in front of me with a surprised but happy look on her face. "Wow, can I get some of this tonight?" she asked. "You never cease to amaze me." Just then, Haley grabbed my hand and pulled me back to the dance floor. The mother-son dance ended and the children took the lead, along with me. I don't think I sat down for another 15 minutes, and when I finally did, Maria's friends came up to me to congratulate me for being so on topic and good. When the band would sometimes play a slow song, several women my age would come up to me and ask me to dance. I spent time with each of them, and when a song came on that I could foxtrot to, I walked over to the family table and extended my hand to Tracy. She looked at me somewhat flirtatiously, took my hand, and we set off. I know that most people at the wedding knew our story and knew that we rarely spoke or spent time together. So when we hit the dance floor together, a lot of heads turned to watch. They probably thought I would step on her foot on purpose or do something else mean, but I was having too much of a good time to really pay her much attention. I noticed that she had gained about 20 pounds over the last decade, and it looked like she wasn't maintaining her gym membership. I knew she was out of breath when we finished, and I escorted her back to her seat. "Thank you, kind sir," she said out loud, then leaned close and whispered, "Can we find time to talk tonight? Just 5 minutes?" We were still hugging, so I whispered in her ear, "Yes, a little later." She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, and I could smell her white shoulders. He still fit her. Maria came up to me a few minutes later at the table and complimented me on being polite to Tracy. "Just trying to be a good host," I said. She looked lost, so I waited until they played something simple enough that she could handle it. "Well, you're a good man, Charlie Brown," Maria said, before kissing me on the cheek and walking away. I waited until the party was over before approaching Tracy for our little chat. By then, some of the guests had already left, and some were too drunk to notice. I just wanted to keep the discussion as unobtrusive as possible at the wedding. I walked Tracy to an empty table at the back of the room. "I'm at your disposal. Tell me what you want to talk about," I said. "I want to talk about us, Jeff, about the possibility of us getting back together," Tracy said, looking me straight in the eye. I didn't move when she said that, so she probably took it as a good sign. "I made a terrible mistake 8 years ago, and you had every right to do what you did. But I really still love you, and I think with a little work on ourselves on both sides, we could consider growing old together. And if I know you as well as I think you do, you still love me too." I had to admit she was right about that last part. "Yes, I still love you," I replied. "Love doesn't just stop after you're 18. But I'll never be able to get over the fact that I wasn't enough of a man for you, and you deceived me and the guys to get what you wanted. It's a lack of respect from the person I loved most in the whole world was devastating to me. I've spent years looking back on our marriage, trying to figure out what I did wrong, what I could have done better. Obviously, I could have been a better lover, for starters, although I don't remember you ever complaining about our intimacy. Life. Maybe you were a very good actress and just supported my ego all these years." "No, you were a good lover," Tracy said. "I just became greedy and stupid. We hadn't dated anyone else for so long, and the guys were like that. I wanted more, but I knew you wouldn't approve. I guess I could find another kupla for real Ikshangi, and to be fair to you, but I really liked guys and didn't want to change that. So basically you were a selfish bitch," I interjected. My remark was made without emotion and completely calmly. It hit Tracy like an unexpected blow to the stomach. "I never saw it that way, but I guess you're right," she replied. "But that was 8 years ago. Can't we give ourselves a second chance?" "You mean, can't I give you a second chance?" I asked. And the answer to that is a resounding no. When you left me, all I had left was my self-respect. And now, 8 years later, you're asking me to give that up. There are some lines that just can't be crossed, ever. Some things, I'm sorry, just can't fix. I shook my head as if trying to clear it of the fog that had descended. I was pleased with myself for being able to rationally discuss the situation when I knew there was a time when I would have flown into a rage and possibly hurt myself more than anyone else. Tracy's eyes were downcast, focused on the floor beneath her shoes. When I looked at her again, I saw tears streaming down her face. 8 years ago, I would have hugged her and wiped away those tears. Now, I just got up and left. I walked over to the family table. Everyone was looking at me, waiting, I think, for the explosion I just talked about. I could see the concern on their faces. I grabbed Haley's hand and practically dragged my shocked 22-year-old daughter onto the dance floor, winking at Maria and Jason as I did so. "Hey, we still have 45 minutes of partying," I shouted after them. "This old man will get his money." Although I didn't remarry, I dated as much as a man in his 50s and 60s probably should be allowed to. I enjoyed where life took me. I retired at 65 and lived a comfortable, if not great, life, took some nice sorority trips, and filled the role of grandfather with enthusiasm. Haley had 2 marriages about 6 years after Maria, and each girl had 2 children. I didn't intentionally avoid Tracy, but even though we both still lived in the same city, I rarely saw her. The girls told me that she led a very quiet, lonely life, especially after her parents both died more than 15 years ago. Not only did I attend the funeral, I said both farewells, and Tracy wrapped her arms around me and absolutely cried when I finished each time. I held her tightly both times because I knew how much it hurt to lose your parents. But I made sure to stay away after that. I didn't want to send mixed signals at a vulnerable time in her life. I guess part of me still loved Tracy. I'm not sure it's possible to completely get over someone you've been married to for so long, but after all these years apart, I was rather sad about how things turned out for her. She made a bad choice and it ended really badly for her. But I don't feel guilty for doing what I had to do and then moving on with my life.